Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Boxiest, and today I'm gonna be doing a different type of what if. So as you all know, Squid Game Season 3 recently released, and when Squid Game Season 1 came out, I made a video on what if Squid Game was in Cobra Kai, and I figured it would be fun to make a follow-up to that video. I figured it would be fun to combine those two series into a single what if. So spoilers for Squid Game Season 3, you have been warned. So with that out of the way, let us begin. What if Miguel, Robbie, and Tori were in Squid Game during the events of Cobra Kai Season 6? If you haven't seen the previous parts, I would recommend you go watch them before continuing this one. So there was a line in Squid Game Season 1 by one of the VIPs stating that the Korean Squid Games are the best, so there are probably more games around the world. So in this version of events, we're gonna have Squid Game in the US, and to keep things simple, we're gonna have the Korean Squid Games in the US. So in this timeline, a fight would break out. Miguel, Robbie, and Tori would fight the other players. Tori would use offense, while Robbie used defense, and Miguel would use a combination of offense and defense. The fight would continue, but eventually Miguel would be stabbed with a fork, and he would fall on the ground. This is when the guards would show up, and they would stop the fight, and Miguel would be injured from the fight. Those events would continue, the VIPs would still arrive, and one of the VIPs would be revealed to be Terry Silver, and he would be there to watch the games. Terry Silver will recognize Tori, and he would recognize her as one of Cobra Kai's students. Those events would continue. The next day, the next game would begin. Each player would have to grab a ball from the gumball machine. Miguel and Tori would get blue, but Robbie would get red. The guard would explain the rules. He would say that the blue team would have to hide and escape, while the red team had to kill a member of the blue team. Robbie would be shocked knowing that he had to kill someone from the blue team, and he wouldn't know what to do. But this is when the guard would say that this was their chance to switch teams if they weren't satisfied. So Robbie would switch to the blue team, and the game would begin. Miguel, Robbie, and Tori would decide to stick together, and they would use their keys to make it through the maze. This is when a red player would see them, and he would want to attack them. But Robbie, Miguel, and Tori would fight them off. Miguel would still be injured from the fight from the previous night, so Tori and Robbie would mostly defend Miguel, and they would make it through the maze, fighting red players that stood in their way, and they would eventually find the exit. Those events would carry on. Another round of voting would happen. Miguel and Robbie would still vote to end the games, but Tori would still choose to continue, and the majority of the players would still choose to continue the games. So the next game would begin. The players would be playing jump rope, and each player would have to make it across. Tori would have a hard time because she wouldn't have balance, but Robbie would use his Miyagi-Do training to his advantage, and Robbie and Tori would make it across. Miguel wouldn't be able to jump as much because of his injury, and he wouldn't be able to make it as far. So in this timeline, Miguel would be knocked off the bridge, and he would fall to his death. Tori and Robbie would be shocked, and they would be heartbroken, and Tori would get angry. Only 8 players would make it to the final game. The remaining players would still get a feast, and the final round of voting would begin. The guards would still let the players know that they could choose who would die in the next game, and that only 3 players had to die. Robbie would still choose to end the games, and after what happened to Miguel, Tori would now choose to end the games, but everyone else would choose to keep the games going. And later on that night, Terry Silver would call for Tori, and he would offer her a knife. He would say how the other players are planning to go against her, since she chose to end the games. Terry would say that if she killed the other players, she would win all the money and get to go home. And later on that night, Tori would be holding the knife, and she would be hesitant about killing the other players, but Robbie would stop Tori. He would say that he thinks that she's not a bad person. He would say how Miguel told him all about her, and how she was a good person. So Robbie would convince Tori not to go through with it, and the next day the final game would begin. They would play Sky Squid Game. Robbie and Tori would be on defense. The other players would want to attack them, and they would want to push them off, but Robbie and Tori would fight back, and there would be a fight on each platform, but eventually one of the players would fall off, and they would make it to the final platform. Robbie and Tori would team up against the other player, and they would eventually push him off, so Robbie and Tori would win the final game. So Robbie and Tori would get to go home, and they would split half the prize money. Robbie and Shannon would move to a better place, and using the money, Tori would take care of her brother, and they would move to a better place. Carmen would file Miguel as a missing person, and Tori would eventually find out, so she would go see Carmen, and she would tell her everything about the games. And at first, Carmen wouldn't believe her, but Tori would show her the money, and she would give Carmen a portion of her winnings. She would say that Miguel would have wanted her to have this, and Carmen and Rosa would be heartbroken. There would be a funeral for Miguel, and Carmen and Rosa would move out of the valley. Danny would find out what happened to Miguel, and he would want to put an end to the games once and for all. And that is where I'm going to end part 3. Thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think would have happened if Squid Game was in Cobra Kai Season 6? Let me know in the comments below. YouTube lets me know that the majority of you are not subscribed, so if you guys could subscribe, that would be much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And I'll see you guys next time.